This is the FlipNerd.com Expert Real Estate Investing Show, the show for real estate investors, whether you're a veteran or brand new. I'm your host, Mike Hambright, and each week I bring you a new expert guest that will share their knowledge and lessons with you. If you're excited about real estate investing, believe in personal responsibility, and taking control of your life and financial destiny, you're in the right place. This is episode number 416, and my guest today is Luis Ontiveros. Luis has been on the show before, a little over a year ago, and shared his amazing story of being honestly in the wrong place at the wrong time while in his youth, which ended up landing him in the California State Prison. Pretty scary. When he got out, he was a changed man and ready to change his ways and not take life for granted again. He's an awesome guy. He's got just a ton of heart and went on to truly become a very successful real estate investor. In fact, he learned by watching a video of a guest we recently had on the show, Michael Jake. Watched a training video, and that was kind of the launch of his real estate investing career. So it's funny seeing all these friends come together. But he became a very successful investor operating in several different markets, still does today. Of course, this is the short version of his story. I don't want to steal the thunder. On today's show, though, Luis is here to share some techniques that he and his team are using to continue to dominate in the markets they go into. Now, I'm not joking. There's not always a ton of super actionable content on the show. We meet some great people and hear some great stories, but he shares exactly how to do what he and his team are doing today, and it's something you can literally start doing today yourself, even if you don't have much of a budget to get started. If you want it bad enough, today's show just might change your life. If you're already an active real estate investor, you can take these lessons learned and roll it out to your team to ramp up and start doing more deals. It's a great show. Let's get started. Please help me welcome Luis Ontiveros to the show. Hey, Luis, welcome to the show, my friend.
What's going on, brother? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, happy to have you back on. It's been a while.
It's been about a year now, man. It's been about a year. Definitely an honor to be back.
Yeah, excited to have you here, man. I always love talking to you. And I'm excited, honestly, for everybody. I don't want to steal our thunder yet, but if somebody moved your cheese and you're having a hard time finding deals right now, Luis is we're gonna talk about that over the next half hour or so, and he's gonna give some tips that are gonna just change the game for you if you just listen and follow.
That's right.
He's willing to share some trade secrets today, some stuff that's working really well right now, and I think it's gonna be great.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah. Absolutely. Definitely.
Hey, before we dive in, by the way, we're talking about lead generation, how to find motivated sellers today, in a unique way to do it. Before we get started, though, Luis, kind of tell us a little bit give us a couple minutes of your background and how you got started.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on the show, Mike. It's always an honor, and everybody listening, glad you're here. So, quick background, grew up in Mexico, came over here for college around 2002 after getting kicked out of high school a bunch of times, and ended up kind of lived life on the wrong side of the tracks for a while until all of that lifestyle took me to the worst day that ever happened to me in December of 2007 when the DEA showed up at my door and basically took me in, and I ended up doing about 13 months in state prison. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because through that pain and through that just being at that rock bottom place and being stripped of everything, absolutely everything. I remember just kind of sitting there and in the cell, missing my family, having nothing. And all I wanted was to have a lunch meal with my family. That was like the big thing. Like if I could have that, I was a happy camper. I wasn't thinking about the money, not the cars, not the business. You know, I just wanted to spend a little time with my family, walk on the beach or something. So after that, I came out in 2009 and I started looking for something, and I ran into a video. I was living in my parents' house, ran into a video of a guy telling me that he was going to show me how to buy houses 10 ways with no money, no credit. And it's Mike Jake, you know him.
The funny thing is for those of you listening right now, Michael Jake's been on the show before. In fact, he was just on a couple shows ago, literally.
Oh,
like
awesome.
2 weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
Definitely. So I downloaded it.
I remember the story when you told it the first time we met in Powerful Man.
I suspended
Michael Jake was crying.
Oh, exactly. So what I decided to do, I could have done two things right there. I could have said, you know what, this guy's full of crap. Or I could have, but what I did is I said, you know what, I'm going to have a little faith. I took a step of faith and I downloaded it and I started putting things into action. And long story short, within a few months, I ended up making $13,000 check wholesaling houses. And I've never looked back since. And 2014 was the first year we broke seven figures. And we just kept growing and growing from there. But the main thing is I like to build a wholesaling business. I never really liked talking to sellers. I never really liked meeting them at the kitchen table and all that. It wasn't my thing. So from an early stage in my business, I've always wanted to run my business in a way where I didn't have to talk to any sellers. And by the grace of God, I haven't done that in about 6-7 years now.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Still producing deal flow. Yep.
Yeah. It's the opposite of the model that I follow, that I've always used myself and that I teach, is buying at the kitchen table. That's exactly what I say, is buying in the living room, whatever. And so, but I've always appreciated guys like you that buy over the phone. And so, there's no right or wrong solution, but exactly. I know in your model, one of the things that's enabled you to do is just kind of pick up your ball and go to a different playground if you need to. I know you're in San Diego there. It gets too hot and you just kind of pick up and land somewhere else, right?
Exactly, and that's one of the most beautiful things. But just like you said, Mike, it's 100% personality based. It's all about what you want. I mean, we got a lot of friends that love doing deals, right? Just kind of sitting down, shaking hands and signing contracts and making stuff happen. But for me, I'm more of a lifestyle kind of guy. I like to kind of hang out. I mean, if you kind of document my life, it's probably pretty boring because I'm just kind of chilling at home a lot. But it's all about that lifestyle. So there, like you said, there's no right or wrong. But I mean, as far as I love the fact that there's no geographic boundaries or I think that can hold you back with this business, because you could live in China for all we care, and you could run your business from there, doing deals, going into different markets. All you need obviously is internet and be able to run your team, but that's a beautiful thing. We recently, for a lot of you guys that know San Diego, it's a pretty hot market right now. Our cost per deal was getting into the $10,000 range per deal. Yeah. So we decided to switch markets, and it was just as simple as looking at some data, testing a little bit of marketing over there, and seeing what the conversion was. Everything over the phone, and that's one of the most beautiful things that I love about the business.
If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more.
It's a pretty hot market right now. Our cost per deal was getting into the $10,000 range per deal. Yeah. So we decided to switch markets, and it was just as simple as looking at some data, testing a little bit of marketing over there, and seeing what the conversion was. Everything over the phone, and that's one of the most beautiful things that I love about the business.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So it's interesting because you and I were talking ahead of time, and for folks that are listening to the show, we always usually, honestly, at this point, after this is episode number 416, most of the people on the show now are friends of mine. They're people that maybe I didn't know a few years ago. I think you and I have probably known each other for at least 2, maybe 3 years.
Yep.
Luis. And it's like I just use the show as an opportunity to catch up with my buddies,
Exactly.
And each time we talk, we probably talk for a half hour before we even get started here. And of course, part of that conversation always has to be, what are we going to talk about today? And we started talking about competition, and Luis stopped me in my tracks. He's like, there is no such thing as competition. Competition is irrelevant. So tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, I know it did get more competitive, but I know you want to talk about why that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it all started, Mike, when it all started because I started doing deals in San Diego, and yeah, I mean, competition is irrelevant whether a market gets hot or not. But I remember just kind of sending out marketing, and initially I'd send out just a few thousand postcards. We'd get this is years ago. We get a lot of leads, and we do a lot of deals. But then I started kind of seeing that diminish, and it's because these people are getting bombarded with marketing, the marketing messages that they're getting all over the place, and then it kind of numbs them to your marketing. So number one, we said, okay, we need to start being different, and number two, we said, okay, we just need to focus our efforts in a place where it's going to make more sense. Even though we can do deals here, it's just going to be more expensive. But the biggest thing that I realized as I was going through this is that competition is irrelevant, because even though it got higher, the price per deal, we could still do deals, but we just decided to take those marketing efforts and that marketing money in a place where it would be more efficient. Yep. Now, the bottom line is this, and if you got something to write, got pen and paper or something, write this down. As long as there's people living in houses and life happening, deals will be made, period. Because, I mean, in our particular niche, which is the distressed homeowner niche, we need to buy houses at a discount, right? If we're wholesaling, if we're fixing, flipping, whatever you're doing in that sense, you need to buy at a discount in order to make a profit. So our niche is the distressed market niche, which is only about 5-6% of the entire real estate industry, right? So in our niche, life happens, right? Life keeps happening, and so I say, as long as there's people living in houses and life happening, deals will be made. People die every day. People go through divorces every day. People inherit houses every day. People don't pay their property taxes every day because of a situation that's occurring in life. So if you kind of just believe that, like, it's almost impossible to think that you can't do this business.
Absolutely. No, I agree.
Right? Because the bottom line, if you can generate leads are coming in, offers are going out, stuff's going to go down.
Yeah. I teach the same thing. I mean, there are strategies that work different times. Like, I was never big on short sales or REOs. Just never was. I've always been direct market to seller. But those things worked for some people, and then when they dried up, those folks didn't really know what to do. They had to figure out another option. But stuff like you said, death, divorce, inheritance, problem rental properties, like all those things are never going to stop. They've been around since there were people in houses, and they're going to be around, like you said, as long as there are people in houses.
Exactly. And I think it's important to just kind of believe that, because what you believe, that's going to determine the type of actions that you take.
Yep. And
if you're kind of caught up in there's a lot of competition right now, it's not a good time to get in the market. Like, that's totally like the opposite of what you need to be thinking.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that empowers you.
Yeah. And I think the important lesson there is you need to evolve. Your thinking needs to evolve. Your lead generation techniques, tactics, whatever you do, need to continually evolve. Sometimes the stuff you used to do doesn't work anymore, and you have to just evolve. And the good thing is, if you develop that mindset like you have, to know that I have to evolve, well, the truth is 9 out of 10 real estate investors aren't going to evolve. So as long as you can stay ahead of them, which isn't that hard to do, you just have to take action, right, ultimately.
Exactly, and it's all about consistency and just like you said, Mike, evolving. Right, right now, for example, one of the ways we've evolved is one of our main markets was San Diego. We started seeing the numbers kind of go south there, so we evolved. We said, all right, there's people living in houses, and there's life happening. So where can we go that we can make these dollars more effective? And we start testing other markets. Right, we test with a little bit over here. And another way we're evolving is we're actually adding more value to our prospects, to our homeowners. Like this is what we teach our team. Okay, don't just kind of be like everybody else out there, just going through a script and making an offer. Go a little the extra mile with them. If they got property taxes that they owe, find out how much it is. We just closed the property. I was telling you about it. The $25K, bought it for $25K. It's worth $180. Not all the deals are like that. This was a good one.
Yeah.
And but one of the reasons I was talking to my team that we got that deal is because my team member said, hey, like, matter of fact, let me find out how much you owe, okay? Because she didn't know. So we went to the website, we looked it up, we got all the figures, we presented to her, and nobody else had done that for her. We were competing with a few other people. So just kind of like going that extra mile,
right,
or teaching your team to do that will definitely go a long way in the current market right now, for
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. That's good. So the last time you were on the show, a little over a year ago, we talked about a similar topic, and at that time you were focused heavily on niche lists, but you were doing some extra research to find out if they're vacant and things like that. And so I know, back to the evolution part, you've just continued to evolve here. So now we're going to talk about how to find leads that ultimately that you can call, right?
Okay, yeah. So if you're listening right now and you're kind of getting started, you don't have money to get started, this is the best way that I would do. This is what I would do if I had maybe like $1,000. I was put in China in a place that I don't know, and just kind of little apartment over there, or a little hut, whatever, and just kind of like, okay, how am I gonna get out of this, right? So number one, I got $1,000. I would get a list. All right, the list doesn't really matter. The more obviously, the more distressed list that you can get, I would just go to your county, get the property tax delinquent list, request it. They'll give you a CD for like $50. Then I would convert that list into usable data, because a lot of it usually just has like the APN, the assessor parser number, the tax number, whatever. So you need to get names and addresses, right? So I would go to a place like Melissa Data, or there's just any data pending company, or even go on Upwork.com, get a VA to kind of like just convert that list into usable data. That's step number 2. Number 3 is I would want to know what properties on there are vacant, okay? Because this is going to be the kicker right here. This is going to be the secret sauce that's going to make your list like way more valuable. So I would go to accuzip.com, and I would get that list converted. Usually it's like $1,300 a year, but they if you don't have money, I think you can send them your list and they'll run it for you for like $200. And now you have a list with over, a few thousand names, and you know which ones are vacant, right? Now you've actually, through the United States Postal Service, this AccuZip company, they run their list through the database of the United States Postal Service, and it comes back and it tells you which ones are vacant. After that, go to a company like SearchBug, and now you have phone numbers. So now you get calling, and now all these people.
So you just upload your list. By the way, you just upload your list. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I've got this distressed seller list. Now let me find out. And by the way, probably when you get the distressed seller list, you probably can run it through an equity filter as well, right, to see who's got equity maybe.
Exactly.
Even. So it's kind of taking these lists. I mean, there's a few folks that are doing some of the stuff they were calling list stacking. Like, let me just find these lists, and a bunch of them only have one flag, but let me find the ones that have a few flags. Vacant, has equity, and we can find out who they are, right?
Exactly. So now you made it even juicier. Now you know they got equity, right? So once you got the phone numbers, you can start calling them yourself. Or if you got somebody on your team, get him on a platform called Mojo, which is basically like an automatic dialer for for telemarketers or whatever.
Yep.
And just get him making offers, and that's the fastest way to get a good deal. And a lot of those people are probably not even being marketed to and stuff like that. So
not that way, probably, right? Yeah. I mean, they might be getting stacks of direct mail, but they just see it all as the same and they throw it in the trash or whatever, right? Talk a little bit about the significance of it being vacant. Like, what is? There's people that have equity, there's people that are in distressed situations, but they may still live there. But talk about the significance of it being vacant.
Well, I love vacant houses because anybody. I mean, I had a vacant house. I'll give you an example. I bought a house a few years ago in Sacramento, and I was wanting to rehab it remotely from San Diego, hundreds of miles away. And it was sitting vacant for a couple months. And during those months, it got vandalized. People went in there, were taking copper. There was a guy living there, some squatter. To get him out, I had to call the police and just do, stuff like that. So I was a motivated seller. Like, right. I didn't want that house sitting vacant like that because I knew it was just going to get jacked up. So for any other homeowner that has a vacant house, and either if it's not rented, something's going to happen to the house, and if it's not even rentable, it means it's already all messed up, and that creates opportunity for guys like you and I, or our listeners here,
Right.
because a vacant house just means motivation. It means that there's been neglect. It means that there's people, somebody doesn't care about it, or they don't have the resources to attend to it and fix it up and get it right.
Yep.
So we come in and we present value to the homeowner by telling them, hey, here's the deal. We can get this off your plate, and all we got to do is get this contract signed.
Right. So I want to back up here because you mentioned a few things. We flew through them, so I want to make sure listeners get this. So you get the property tax delinquent note. This is an example. It could be any list, right?
It could be an absentee list. You go to listsource.com, download the absentees. The key here is flagging which are vacant so that you can focus on those.
Right. So you find vacant properties, and then it's probably different in every county, I'm guessing. But some counties you need to append to get the name and address. Like it might show like the legal address, which is like lot and block and subdivision name, which for human beings means nothing really. But so you got to basically say, hey, lot 14, block T of the XYZ subdivision, it actually is 123 Main Street, right, in Dallas, Texas, or whatever. So, and the significance of needing that address is, one, you can talk to people and say, hey, do you happen to be the owner of this? But also, when you go to SearchBug, which is a tool you use, there's a few of them out there, but SearchBug to do like a reverse lookup to try to find a phone number associated with that name and address, right?
Yep.
And you have to have, I think with SearchBug, you have to have, or the results will be much better if you have name and address, right?
Name and address, and you can get it in you can append the data. If you only have like a number, an APN in the county, you can go to Melissa Data, and they'll send you back the right data.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's only like a few bucks per thousand. Per se.
Yeah. And they're usually giving you what's common. I mean, sometimes they can't find any phone numbers, but sometimes
they give you a lot of stuff. I mean, they won't give you phone numbers right there, but they'll give you everything from last transfer date, home owner name, property address, mail address, assessed value. I mean, they'll give you everything.
That's great.
And I know this doesn't sound like too much of a sexy way to do stuff, but this gets results. Like if you're struggling right now and you just like don't have money to spend on marketing or PPC or whatever, do this.
Yeah.
And this will get you your first deal, and then now you'll be able to breathe and make other stuff happen.
It's funny because I was telling you beforehand, I've been doing some live events, teaching people how to get started in real estate investing, and I often use that phrase. I start to explain how to do something, and I say, "Is that sexy?" Like, of course it's not. It's none of this stuff is sexy, really. Now I kind of say, look, if you do the hard work, you can have sexy, but you got to do the hard work first, right?
Exactly.
But so, and I know for some people, like if you find a deal that has a ton of equity and like maybe the person's deceased or whatever, and you're calling a number for somebody that's dead, like there's also, we recently had Larry Higgins on the show from Skip Genie. So you could kind of cherry pick some of those deals that you just can't find the person, it's a good deal, and you can kind of go much deeper doing an actual deep dive skip trace, like with somebody like Skip Genie, right?
Oh yeah.
If you need to, yeah. So, so then you talk about AccuZip. So tell us what that is, and tell us what that is.
So basically, AccuZip is a service that it's usually meant for people that run like mail houses, right? Like direct mail and all that, and they're wasting a lot of mail sending to addresses that are no good, right? So they have the software that's meant for those types of companies to flag the vacants. They kind of append it to the United States Postal Service vacant list, and basically a mailman's going out there delivering mail, making stuff happen, and he sees a house that is either stacked up in mail, or he just physically sees that it's a vacant house. So they mark him down, and now the USPS has a database, and when you run your list through AccuZip, it compares it to that list, and then it tells you, okay, these are vacant, and it puts a little check mark on it, and now those are the ones I want to focus on.
Yeah.
So
this is the part that's crazy. Is for years, I at this point I've spent over $1 million on advertising over the last 10 years. A lot of it more than half of it direct mail. And for years, when we'd buy direct mail, we specifically have whoever we're buying our list from scrub it against AccuZip or a search tool like that because we want them to remove the mail.
Exactly.
The belief is, hey, I'm wasting my money on mail if it can't be delivered, right? And the thing is 9 out of 10 real estate investors in the country, maybe 99 out of 100, that are mailing do that, right? They don't want to waste money on sending it to something that's not going to be delivered and going to bounce back. It's a waste of money. The funny thing is up until recently, nobody was really systematically approaching those people that we scrubbed out.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, that's a vacant house. Like, they're probably more motivated than the guy next door that you did send a letter to that lives there, right?
Right. Well, and it's interesting because a few years ago, we could just send direct mail and we'd get a bunch of leads, do a bunch of deals. And as soon as we started kind of seeing like those numbers go down a little bit, now we need to get more creative, right? We need to actually start thinking outside the box and seeing what we can do to get to the actually most motivated people in the shortest amount of time. And if you're also listening and you like this whole thing, but you just don't want to be talking to sellers and all that, then there's lots of ways. You can go to Upwork, get a VA, a decent one for like $5-6 an hour, have them call your list nonstop with a simple script that just gets them to raise their hand, and then they'll send them to you, and you can actually close them, and you get most of the grunt work out of the way very cheaply, very efficient as well.
Yeah, if you're going to do that in scale, you can bring on VAs and hire a team of people. And I know I just happened to go to John Martinez's sales training event, and they have their Seller Snipers product with business, which is they're doing. I think he said they're doing like they're calling like something like 50 or 100,000 numbers a day for other real estate investors, and they're doing the same thing. They're just calling lists that people sent them and trying to get them warmed up, and they pass them back to you. So that's like very cost effective ultimately as well. In fact, if you're listening right now, I'm going to add a link down below for that. But at the end of the day, I think what Luis is saying here is kind of like him. Like, he doesn't want to be the guy doing the work. And truthfully, I haven't been on appointments and don't answer my phones anymore and stuff like that in many, many years, right? I mean, we all want to get there. We're not saying that that's beneath us because we all started there, right? But that's probably not your goal, is to be on the phone all day long prospecting for leads. And so even if you have to do that and you're just getting started, that's not the end goal, but you got to do what you got to do now, right?
Absolutely. No, but you're absolutely right, Mike. I mean, we're all in this business. We love properties and all that, but we're in it for what it brings, right? We're in it for the time that it brings, the freedom to be able to do the things that we love with our family and our loved ones. And it's not to, be sitting down with sellers and negotiating all day. That's kind of, unless that's what you love. If that's what you like, then more power to you. But at the end of the day,
there's nothing wrong with it. But you're always limited by your own capacity if you're the one doing. If you're in the way doing the work, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so talk a little bit about, maybe just share some of your experiences from your team about reception to people cold calling. Like, you got to have thick skin, right? There's a lot of people that are getting pissed that you're like, hey, I'm at dinner right now and you're calling me. Like, I remember growing up, like, we had rotary dial phones. This was before cell phones, right? And you're kind of sitting there having dinner with your family or something. The phone's ringing. It's always a salesman. Parents are always mad, right? But you kind of come back to that now, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I do that myself. I get calls every day, and it's just like some guy in India or something. I just hang up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But the reality is that not every lead is a prospect, right? And there's people out there waiting for you to find them. And if you're not doing the work, if you're not making the calls, if you don't got people making the calls for you, like, it's just not going to happen. And yeah, I mean, cold calling is hard. It's not easy. And if anybody that tells you that easy is doesn't know what they're talking about. But there is results if you're consistent with it. Like, the majority of them are going to be not worthy deals or not worthy leads even.
Yeah.
But that's why the most beautiful thing is, like, you can outsource this stuff very cheaply, very effectively, to only talk to people that actually want to talk to you. And that's the biggest thing I can get. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to have that thick skin, rhino skin, no matter what you do. And you shouldn't be dabbling, right? If you're dabbling, like, why are you even here, right? Yeah. If you're in it for the long term, then now we're talking.
I love that, man. Yeah, and for folks that are listening right now, if you're new, or if you're not new, you'll understand this. If you are new, even when you send direct mail, to get 10 leads, like, if you have a 0.5% response rate, which is kind of typical today, even if we have like a good list, that means you got to send 2,000 pieces of mail to get 10 leads.
Yep.
And those aren't necessarily even 10 good leads. Those are just 10 people that picked up the phone. They might not have equity. You don't really know. And so it's the same thing. It's a funnel, right? You got to put so much in to get one unit out. And you don't know what that is, but cold calling is just another way to kind of fill that funnel up.
Exactly. And kind of to top that off, Mike, it's all about like anything that you do. You gotta just go all in. You can't be on the fence. You're either in or you're out. You got to put in the work. This business, it's an amazing business, and it'll definitely provide for you and your family to live the life of your dreams. But you got to do the work. You got to get in there. You got to put in the time. You got to invest. You got to give, right? You got to give before you get. So that's the bottom line.
Awesome, man. Hey, Luis, if folks want to learn more about you, first of all, thanks for sharing today. This is a great tip. And for those that are getting started or they're like, this is too hard, this doesn't work, I can't compete anymore, this is for you. Like if you're saying that, you need to just look in the mirror and kind of think about how bad you actually want this, right?
Exactly.
But this is some great stuff here. This is stuff that people pay money to get access to.
Yeah.
So, if folks want to learn more about you or what you've got going on, where do they go?
You can just go to luigiantiveros.com, LUIGI Ontiveros, ONTIVEROS.com. And you can download some free trainings over there. I'm always sharing stuff on social media and all that. So at the end of the day, it's all about providing value, helping out people, helping out other people, and going full circle like Mike Jake, right? He was the guy on the other side of the screen telling me that I could do this. And it was my choice at that point to say he's full of crap, or I'm actually going to take a step of faith and do what he says.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks again for sharing your insights, buddy. And these are some great tips for sure.
Absolutely, Mike. Anytime. Take care, and God bless, my brother.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Hey, everybody. This was episode number 416. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our show on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, or subscribe to us on YouTube if you watch us there. Of course, all of our videos and shows, over 1,500 videos now, and podcasts over the last 4.5 years on flipnerd.com. So you can always watch or listen on flipnerd.com. But if you could give us some love, share it with your friends, people you care about, we'd appreciate it. We're trying to change lives over here, and glad you could join us today. So hope you have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode.
Let's change the world.
If you're an active real estate investor already doing deals and looking to double or triple your business, you should consider joining the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. We're a small group of investors that share our best practices, tips, and tricks with one another in an effort to all win. Real estate investing can be a lonely business for successful real estate investors, but it doesn't have to be. Investor Fuel members meet 4 times a year, but we talk to each other 365 days a year, and we focus on improving the profitability of our businesses, improving the quality of our lives. That's why we do this, right? And making an impact on those around us so we can truly leave a legacy. We limit our membership to only 1 to 2 members per market, so everyone shares their knowledge, tips, and tricks openly and honestly. Our members include some buying 1 to 2 houses a month, up to some of the most respected investors and leaders in the real estate investing industry, some of which have personally done over 1,000 deals. If you'd like to be considered for our invitation-only world-class mastermind, please visit investorfuel.com to request your personal invitation. Our next meeting is coming up quickly. Go to investorfuel.com now to learn more. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the FlipNerd.com Investing Show. If you're not yet an elite member of FlipNerd, you're missing out. We have tons of great training, including a new detailed Masterclass published each month and live training webinars with experts twice a month. Plus, you'll get access to all of our archives, where we already have a growing library of masterclasses and other training videos. Elite members also get membership in our incredible online mastermind group, where many of the top real estate investors from across the country, including many of the hundreds of guests I've had on the show in the past, are already members. Whether you're brand new, looking to get started, or a veteran, you simply must join today. I promise you won't be disappointed. To learn more or join today, please visit flipnerd.com/membership. flipnerd.com/lab. That's flipnerd.com/lab. See you on the next show.